just one last question. Do you have any hope right now for a lasting peace?
I don't have well I do somehow maintain like hope. I'm not optimistic. There's very little that I'm seeing, not just in the United States, but sort of throughout much of the world, that leads me to believe that anyone is serious about talking real alternatives to war. A lot of the discussion I see in the American Democratic Party, especially, or the vague left, like the moderate left, and even in like the European left, which is like left of ours, but still pretty mild, what they talk about is alternatives, like polite alternatives within the war system. Nobody's talking about making it so a Raytheon executive can't be the national security advisor. Nobody's talking about dismantling the Pentagon budget and investing in human needs, social needs, and infrastructure. No one is talking about any sort of redistribution of the militarized global funding or cutting off the American arms industry, which is the last great American industry. We used to make automobiles and everything else and grain. And now the one thing we're number one at is gun running. We're number one, USA. No one's talking about that. And so that's why I'm not just trying to be like a sophisticated veneer pessimist. No one's showing me much. And it's not just the United States, it's throughout the West. And we're also seeing the rise of these right-wing nationalists like Modi and Bolsonaro and Orban in Hungary, and even Boris Johnson to a certain extent. I'm not bullish on peace. And so long as the Democratic Party has decided that it is politically palatable and is going to score them political points to demonize China and Russia, then we're going to have an armed globe. We're going to have separate camps like we did in the Cold War. Everyone's going to keep building more nukes. They're going to point their bayonets metaphorically and physically at one another. And we're going to divide the world into armed camps. And the poorest and the least among us are going to suffer first. And I really wish a bunch of really, really Bible thumping American evangelicals would pay a little attention to, say, like, I don't know, the Sermon on the Mount or something, or the first shall be last, because we throw the last, the lowest among us under the bus as a matter of course. And if they don't speak English and they don't live in our borders, then they're invisible. And so, no, I'm not particularly bullish on it, but I will say that the BLM movement and some of the activism in the streets about other issues gives me hope, because if we can be intersectional, to use the young people buzzword that is important, that I'm learning, we show the ties between war overseas and empire at home and militarized police and racial injustice. We show that those things are connected, and then there's a hope that we take some of that energy and we go bigger with it. We go more systemic. So I'm not quitting, but I think last point, the extent that I have hope, it's a grassroots hope. That's a cliche, but it's a grassroots hope. It's not coming from the 1%. It's not coming from the big great men theory of history. Salvation's not coming from the top, folks. And I don't need to tell anybody on this podcast listening probably that, but my hope is a grassroots hope. And that's going to require a lot of ground game, stuff that I'm not as good at as I wish I was, but I'm trying.